Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the first, is it the first Daily Huddle of the year?
The first Daily Huddle of the year.
Uh, uh, Yes. So happy New Year, everybody, or should I say happy new Gregorian calendar year? If you have been with us for any amount of time, especially in Spiritual Matters Thursdays, then you know that the new year we celebrate is in the fall equinox, but that's another sermon for another Sunday. Today, we're just happy to have you with us as we begin 2025. And we begin this amazing year with the wisdom teachings of A Course in Miracles. Now, Giovanni's grinning because he knows that I have been a student of A Course in Miracles since about 2007 and have been teaching and facilitating lessons in A Course in Miracles since about 2010. So it's been a minute. And there's a reason why I keep going back to this book year after year, sort of as a devotional. So I wanted to share with you that practice and what that is. Some of you have heard of A Course in Miracles, some of you are just slightly familiar with it or know it by name. So I wanted to share with you about the difference that it's made in my life and how perhaps you can start investigating what it might do in yours. If you have ever felt like there must be another way to live, to experience peace, to approach challenges, etc., you probably ran into A Course in Miracles, because when I ran into A Course in Miracles, that's what I was asking of my life, and most of the people that come into it are coming to it from that place of curiosity. Now, I have to tell you that I actually was at the bookstore on September 10th of 2001, okay, a day before the 9/11 incidents. And I was there with the person that I was dating at the time. And the book just called to me. And when I went to pick it up, it fell right on my feet. And when I went to pick it up again, it fell again. And when I went to pick it up again, it fell again. And I was like, what? Do you not want me to get you? Is that the name? But I continued to feel pulled by that book. And so he was generous enough to get it for me. But it sat on my shelf for many, many years until I picked it up again in 2007, which is where I started. Now, what is A Course in Miracles? It is a spiritual self-study program designed to shift your perception from fear to love. It is not tied to any religion. It is spiritual, but not dogmatic. And it combines teachings on forgiveness and inner peace and realization. And those are things that I value very much, and I'm sure you do as well. Now, how it came about, it was written by a psychiatrist and psychology professor at Columbia University, Dr. Helen Schucman, in the 60s. And Schucman claimed that the material was channeled or dictated to her by her inner voice, which she identified as Jesus the Christ. And she collaborated with her colleague, Dr. William Thetford, to transcribe it. And again, the course emphasizes love, forgiveness, and the idea that the external world is a reflection of our inner world, right? As within, so without. And I think the reason why it resonates globally the way that it does is because its teachings transcend cultural and religious boundaries. It's been used by millions over the years. Again, it's a 60-year-old, maybe 50-year-old document. And it's been used by millions to find healing, to find clarity, to find purpose in their lives. I think that the reason why it has been so transformational, a couple of reasons. First, it has that universal appeal, right? It speaks to those universal spiritual principles of love and forgiveness, and even the nature of reality itself. And it offers a practical way to experience peace in the midst of life's chaos. Now, I say that, and I hesitate a little bit because it's not so much that the book does that for you. It's you taking it in, you processing the lessons, and I'll get into how the book is broken down in a minute. and taking it on and applying it, that that it actually creates that difference. Michelle says, I have yet to get through it. Not an easy study, in my opinion. I'll get to that in a minute because I have an answer for that as well. Okay, so there's this universal appeal. I think that's one of the reasons why it's been so transformational. The second is because of its psychological depth, as Michelle just mentioned. It is not an easy read. It does take, I mean, really, the first time that I read it, I was like, is this thing even in English? I mean, I know, I recognize the words, but this is like blah, 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 right? And so it is written in a poetic and in a layered way that challenges and rewires your thinking. And it resonates deeply for those seeking self-awareness and inner peace. I think maybe the second time that I read it through, I started to notice, like, I don't know how I know this, but I know this to be true. So it resonated very deeply in that way. Now, let me get to how it's structured, and perhaps if you want to use it and get started, I'll give you some pointers on that. First of all, the book itself consists of 3 parts. There's the text, there's the workbook for students, and then there's the manual for teachers. The text itself is very dense, but insightful, because it provides the foundation for the theory of it. It's the theoretical foundation of A Course in Miracles. Whereas the workbook is more practical in that you can take it in digestible daily lessons. It's 1 lesson per day, 365 lessons. And that part you can use as a devotional. I use the text and the workbook as a devotional, and I teach from both and from the manual. And the manual for teachers is really just practical applications for sharing its principles. So imagine that the workbook is helping you to put into daily application the theoretical foundation that you read in the text, right? After you've gone through the text and the workbook several times, the manual for teachers starts to make sense, because now you become like a senior student, like a teacher's helper in the classroom type of deal. And that is very helpful for those of us who are in leadership positions, because you can take that on as the next level for your growth edge. So again, I recommend beginning with the workbook, 1 lesson per day as a devotional practice. The lessons are designed to be simple, but profound. So to give you an example, one of the most famous quotes from A Course in Miracles is, "Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Therein lies the peace of God." And it sounds so simple. I'm going to say it again. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Therein lies the peace of God. So when you use that sort of as an affirmation for yourself, then you begin to realize it's like, oh, I'm tripping for no reason, or a reason worth investigating, but not a reason worth sustaining, right? That it's like, I can drop this, I can release this. So it's not so much forgiveness like exempting other people of the consequences of their action, so much as releasing yourself from the resentment, right? So that's my first tip, is starting as a devotional. The second tip would be to not rush. Let it be a gentle, reflective process, because it's so deep. Sometimes you do have to close the book and just kind of look up at the ceiling and contemplate. Because, like, first of all, what did I just read? And what does this matter? And how can I apply it? And why am I triggered? Or why am I rejecting this? Or why am I having this reaction to it? And so forth, right? So you want to just observe the way you are interacting. And I would recommend that you do this with anything that you read. Observe your own reaction to it, and the reaction itself is a lesson, right, to what you're reading and to what you're comprehending. So then journal. Third tip would be to journal about the insights or the emotions that arise. And the fourth one, and this is where I come in, is connect with a study group or an online community for shared insights. I run a study group for that. You're welcome to send me your email and I can put you in touch with, our reading schedule and give you the Zoom for when we meet, and we meet weekly, and it's free and donation based only and so forth. So it's a great way to get started and to get acclimated. Giovanni and Sorel have participated in a few of our sessions. And sometimes it's, it's a community. Sometimes we read the part of the day. Stan, I'm talking about A Course in Miracles. Sometimes we read the textbook of or the, what you call it, the lesson of the day and the textbook chapter of the day. And sometimes it's like, we're just gonna assume that you read it, and I have something to talk about on that. Or on the thing that we read 3 days ago, or whatever the case may be, because sometimes you have to really process it. And sometimes the processing that you do privately is aided and abetted and supported and amplified by the study and the discussion that you do in community. So, have any of you put a 1 in the chat if you have ever heard of A Course in Miracles, and put a 2 in the chat if you've actually dabbled in it or are a student of it. I would love to hear your experience with it. 1 if you've just heard of it. 2 is if you've actually dabbled with it. Oh, okay. Look at us. We're all enlightened and stuff. Okay. Fantastic. Yeah. So Stan, I had the book as well before I started studying. I had it for like 6 years before I started studying. And so for those of you who have done some kind of study and dabbling into it, what has been your experience? I would love to know. Come off mute and share with me, like, how long have you been studying it, or was it a stop and go kind of thing, or it didn't resonate with you, or you struggled through it so you stopped? Like, what was your experience? Let me know. Who wants to go first? Thank you, Michelle. I got that. Who wants to say something about their experience with A Course in Miracles? Oh, Laura.
Grand Rising, everyone. Grand Rising. First of all, I want to acknowledge Veronica. Thank you so much for being on the platform with us. I wanted to I started the Course on Miracle. I get stuck being mindful and being truthful. I got stuck on the workbook. I was like, okay, my goodness, where should I start? So now that you open the Pandora box for me, I'm going to definitely reach out to you, because I think I need a accountability partner, and I need a coach to go through this Course of Miracle. So I'm starting out the new year, and you're going to be, oh my goodness, is she again on my phone? What is wrong with this woman? So I'm going to reach out to you. I really need some help with the Course of Miracle. Thank you very much, Dr. Ogando.
Okay, awesome. So I got Michelle and Rashida as interested. Got it. Let's see. I'm gonna take it by the ones that I saw. Laura, and then Veronica, and then Michelle.
Yes. Greetings. Thank you. Happy New
Laura.
Year. Yes. I've dabbled in A Course in Miracles, listening to Marianne Williamson. I did online with Reverend Valerie Love, but I had a resistance to Jesus, even the word Jesus at the time. So I dabbled in it, but the little resistance in me was going on. That's the truth. In Unity Church also, yes, I've dabbled in it, and I kept that resistance up towards whatever download she got from Jesus, and all of that I was experiencing at the time. So I really have never really followed through in any of these sessions with all of these people. But where I'm at now, I'm just glad to know that I've embodied spirit, and know that Jesus, when they talk of Jesus, what it means for me is my higher self, my truth. So I'm happy that I am at that stage now, and willing to move forward in learning more. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, Laura, I'm happy to have you in our Monday community. If you're interested in that, send me your email direct message, and then I'll make sure that you're on the list to invite you to the details, because we're meeting next Monday is our first meeting of the year. Veronica, you're up next.
Good morning, and thank you, Rashida, for the invitation. I had been a student of Unity and also a student of Reverend Ike, and back in the 80s, and he always had that on the bookshelf, The Course in Miracles.
Yeah.
And then Unity, I bought it, and I would leaf through it, and I would just pick it up and just open it, and sometimes I would get a revelation just by opening the course.
Yeah.
And maybe about 15 years ago, I gave away my book, which I'd had for a long, long time. Yeah. And so I am so happy to hear the word A Course in Miracles. And I'm going to purchase it, and I'd like to take the study, because it did reveal things to me, not by just going through a study, but by opening it up and getting revelations out of it. Yeah.
Yeah, because it is very much a self-driven thing. I mean, the community can keep you accountable and can offer some reflections and so forth.
But I like to be part of that study, and I appreciate you allowing me, and Rashida calling me, I calling her, and she inviting me, and you allowing me in.
See?
Thank you.
You got good. Send me your email, and I'll put you on the list.
I certainly will.
Awesome. Michelle, you're next. Michelle, my bad. Where'd she go? Oh, okay. Drop the phone. All right, anybody else? Your experience, your questions, your challenges with A Course in Miracles, or maybe you have questions for me, as in like, what did I do with it, and so forth. I will tell you. Yes, Stan, you raised your hand.
So, Doc, that I understand you correctly in saying that you actually will guide us or help us through that Course in Miracles, that you have a segment that you present.
Yeah, I run a group, a free group on Mondays with my co-facilitator, Natalie Oliver Atherton. She and I co-facilitate the Monday group together. It is free, donation-based, and we've been doing it now for 7 years.
Wow.
So it is an opportunity for you to, people sometimes come and go because again, it is a challenging book. I'm not gonna lie, but yes, it helps to be able to do it with somebody who has read through it several years. I can tie to Laura's point about being challenged by some of the Christian references that are in the book, because sometimes we connect the Christian references in the book to our experience with the body of a church. And what we're actually saying no to is the cult-like experience of being in a particular church, or the judgment that we felt by the church body. But when you can understand those references and those symbolisms from the place of like Egyptian mysticism, which that I study, then you can understand how everything is metaphysical, metaphorical, and how it then applies to you. But yeah, it takes a little bit of guidance to go through that and to make those connections. So I'm happy to do that for anybody who's interested.
How do I join that Monday? That Monday.
Your email, and I'll put you on the list to give you the Zoom and meeting details and all of that.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I'll put it in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you don't want everybody to have your email, send it to me directly. Otherwise,
okay.
It'll be a free for all.
Quite all right.
Who else? Who else is
Oh, I'm back. I knocked myself.
Hi,
I knocked myself out. I knocked myself out. Good morning and happy New Year to everyone. Oh, I'm so excited about joining you for this. And it's just about 2 days ago. Course in Miracles has been popping up in my head. I have not picked up that book in a couple of years. I really haven't. I wasn't even thinking about picking it up. And I was just seeing the picture of the book in my head past couple of days. I tried studying on my own. And some of it I got, some of it I didn't get. And then I joined a study group. This was many years ago. It has to be 20 years.
Oh, wow.
It's been a long time. 15 years, it's been a long time. And I joined a study group in the city that was meeting once a week on a Tuesday with Reverend Sean. He's a unity teacher, minister. And it was going well, and I enjoyed that interaction with the group. I found it easier to get through the information. And then winter came and it got cold and I got lazy and didn't want to take that trip into the city. And so I stopped attending and I haven't picked it up since. But at first I found it harsh. Like I couldn't really, it wasn't welcoming like in other books that were channeled, like Paul Farini's books. I didn't find that as soft. But as I stuck with it, it became easier, and I was able to resonate with the teachings more as time went by. Especially being part of the group, that helped a lot. Yeah. So I'm excited
Awesome.
to do some study work with you.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm looking forward to it. All right. Yeah, so part of what I have discovered is that first of all, you must know that for me, the experience that I and maybe Giovanni can attest to this as a teacher, as a facilitator, and you've seen it in the way that I facilitate, our Thursdays. I'll give you some ground context and some information, etc. But really, I really trust the divinity within you to pick up whatever is relevant to you and the Christ within you to execute on it. Right? So sometimes you'll notice that some folks, especially in the spiritual community, sometimes get in the fixing people business, in the advice giving business, in the let me tell you how to do this business. I'm not one of those folks. And because I know that the divinity that shines within me also shines within you. I mean, that is literally the meaning of namaste. The divine in me salutes and honors the divine in you. So I respect it too much to think that my answer is your answer. And that you can investigate and come upon and discover and execute on your answer, just as I did. But the process of witnessing that, especially in this problem-solving microwave society that we have, sometimes we get impatient with our process. We think that because we don't have an answer, or we don't like the answer, or it's slow in coming, that somehow this is worth quitting, or that it's not for us, etc. We have a very different relationship with patience and with process and with contemplation than what your spiritual growth sometimes demands. And so it's important to be with folks that understand that and that can be patient with you, that can watch you struggle with it and not make you wrong about your struggle, and that can still support you and see the greatness in you even when you may be experiencing yourself at your lowest, because those are just the ups and downs of a journey, not ups and downs of your identity, right? So that's an important distinction. And then the other thing that I'm going to say is that I'm going to say it's a microcosm for, or I should say, it is a projection of what happens in our consciousness. I was just telling someone today, I said, I know that when somebody comes to me to be coached, for example, or to be loved in a personal relationship, it's because they're ready to know themselves as God at a deeper level. Like I know that in the fiber of my being. And to the naked ear, that might sound like hubris. It might sound like arrogance. But I don't know any game more worthy of playing in this incarnation than to use my humanity to amplify my divinity. And I'm really not interested in playing with anybody else who thinks that there's a better game than that. I don't know how else to put it. So I'm like, to anybody who wants to play that game, let's go. And to some of you who don't, vaya con Dios. And so I'm very happy to hear some of you guys speaking about your interest, and I'm excited to welcome you into our Monday community. And so, yeah, but I feel complete in saying that. What do you have to say to feel complete with today's session? Maria.
So I am crying, and I'm born and raised in New Orleans, and I live in Atlanta. And I've talked to many people today and yesterday, and they say that their hearts are shattered. And there's anger, rage, and upset. And so I'm sitting here wondering, do you have maybe, not that I'm looking for an answer, but words of wisdom for me to share with the people besides listening? That's my question. I know it's very intense.
Well, we said yes to this journey, and we said yes to the ups and the downs of it. We sometimes didn't anticipate how low the downs would be.
Right.
But I'm gonna say that sometimes giving words of positivity or hope or encouragement without first facing the pain or the rage, that's also part of the breadth of the human experience. And to throw some positivity on it without first alchemizing the anger can sometimes feel like you're denying somebody's reality, and it does not feel empathetic.
Okay.
So I want to honor, when somebody is enraged, when somebody is in their anger, when somebody is in their like, how could this possibly be? Why are we still dealing with this, et cetera, et cetera? Airing out the grievance is the first step in getting to a place of grace. And so to be able to let it out in a safe space where you could just wail and somebody could just hold you. If you notice, when we're children, if you notice any 3 or 4-year-old, if you're trying to hush them up when they're having a tantrum, good luck with that.
Yeah.
Right. And so what do we do with a tantrum? What do we do when our dark emotions are exploding? We create a safe container for them to be expressed. Part of the reason why we suffer as human beings is because we have not created safe containers for our darker emotions. So it leaks in violence. It leaks in, taking advantage of one another. It leaks in a zero-sum game. It leaks in a hierarchy of who's better and who's worse and who deserves and who doesn't. If we were to create a safe container where we can express our anger, our sadness, our rage, our disappointment, our rejection, our fear of abandonment, or et cetera, including those who perpetuate violence, then we wouldn't have to deal with violence, because that shit would be handled, excuse my French.
Okay.
Right? And so let the tears flow and let the grief come, and know that as you are expressing it, as the tears fall on the ground, you are fertilizing the soil of your own greatness. And that you are, alchemizing that anger into something fruitful.
Okay.
But let's not put it away, because that's kind of like sitting on a balloon in water, right? Eventually it'll pop back up again, right? So let's just deal with it.
Okay, thanks.
Does that feel useful to you?
Oh, yes, very much so. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
And we send our love and our prayers to all of our brothers and sisters, not in New Orleans, yes, and everywhere else where we are forced to confront the lowest of our impulses. I feel called to do this exercise with you guys right quick. I know that we're beyond time, so if you have to go, I understand, but it won't take long, just maybe 1 more minute. And you probably have seen me do this before, but if you take both of your fists in front of you like this, and you can just imagine that in the right fist, you have a piece of dung in there, like smelly, yucky, disgusting piece of dung, like the kind that you pick up when your dog poops on the sidewalk or whatever. When we think that we are that's our identity, that underneath it all, that's who we are, we have a really hard time opening up. Because we think, if I open up, if I show you my vulnerability, if I am honest, if I'm transparent, if I give myself to this person, if I they're gonna find out what a piece of shit I am. Or they're gonna find out that I'm really not all that, whatever the case may be. But on the left, imagine that you have the most amazing, resplendent, induplicable diamond. If that were to be your identity, you couldn't wait to open it up. You'd be like, look what I got. Look what I got. Let me see yours. Now, when I do this exercise in a keynote, for example, in front of an audience, I usually have people stand up and spread themselves out so that they can touch each other. And what you'll notice is that your dung hand, the right hand, touches somebody else's diamond hand. And your diamond hand touches somebody else's dung hand, right? That's on purpose. That's on purpose. That's because you cannot pull somebody out of the dung. When you get in there yourself, you're going to have to hold the truth of who they are so that they can rise themselves and you can witness their rising. Not pull them out. You're not doing anything but witnessing their own pulling out. And you have to be humble enough and vulnerable enough and connected enough to allow someone else to see you in your dung so that they can exercise their diamond self. So that they can exercise. I'm contributing to you, because giving and receiving are the same. This is another quote from A Course in Miracles. So when you're in that moment, when you feel triggered, etc., I would ask you to ask yourself the question I ask myself all the time is, who's speaking? Am I speaking from my dung self or my diamond self? And you will eventually start to recognize the voice of God versus the voice of ego in your own come from. And you'll be able to make the shift quickly, because that's just the caller ID of your own consciousness. So I'm giving you this so that you can take that on. And thank you, Maria, for presencing that, so that because it triggered the diamond and the dung analogy that I always use. So with that said, thank you everybody for being here on our first daily huddle of the year. May you always grow and laugh and love. Eat more plant-based food, stress less, exercise more, get yourself at least 7 hours of sleep. And then, of course, audit your assumptions. Check yourself before you wreck yourself. When you audit your assumptions, and this is something that I've said a long time ago, when you choose a different come from, you create a different outcome. Love you so much. See you next time.